Hmm. Hey, hello everyone. Hi. Oh wow, thank you for joining me again. Such a joy to have you all here. I'm in the garden. You can see got the garden background, and today we have a film that's in the garden. It's going to be in the garden, the Holy Spirit's garden in the mind. We're looking for a new experience, a fresh experience, clean from the past, where everything sparkles. And so that's what we're going for today. Yeah, this week has been very deep, feeling into this movie, and it's been an experience for me. It feels like too. And last week, I really had a big spark with kind of stepping into the direction that Spirit has given. And I still feel that. I still feel this spark in that direction. And then there's something else that's opening up with that too. Because even with that direction of stepping into our spirit given function, stepping into the guidance of the spirit that would lift up the mind, the ego is always so tempted to still put it on the form of things. Like, why does it, sometimes look so busy? Or, what's kind of going on? Or, why can't I just meditate my way through this? Why can't I just get in contact with God just through that, in like pure stillness? But this seems to be a pathway where we're given these relationships from the Spirit. And so, yeah, I've been kind of finding many times this week still where the ego just wants to hang out in past cycles. It knows its ways of being comfortable, and it's not truly comfortable because we're starting to feel this contrast now more and more, that there's such a liveliness with the spirit. There's such a spark when we're in that flow, and then when we try to go into like the a personal sense of I need calm or rest or distraction, even if it feels like pulling myself away from for a little bit, for if things feel high paced, but if I'm trying to pull myself away and keep myself separated, there's this kind of dead kind of feeling that comes in pretty quick. And so more and more now it's becoming very intolerable. Like we just can't stand that drag kind of feeling when we know so much more is available. And we've all had that moments when we like, we come together and we're in the joy of the present moment and we feel such an aliveness. And I feel like that's what's, given us in a more consistent way now. That's the experience that we can expect for ourselves. So why settle for any less than that? And yeah, and I'm also just feeling like, it is helpful taking time sometimes to, like even when we start to feel like we're getting caught up in the doer, to then kind of like take a walk or do things that do feel beneficial, that can open up the mind again. And I was feeling that yesterday. I kind of went for a walk down to the park here in Chapala, and the sun was setting, and it was beautiful. It was like shining through the trees, and they were lit up with all these purple flowers everywhere, and there were boys playing soccer in the dust, and like the dust was going everywhere, and the sun was shining through, and it looked so idyllic. It was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And at the same time too, I could be aware of like where there was still a little bit of maybe anxiousness in the mind or anxiety. And I was kind of just questioning it. What is it in this moment where I'm not fully in the experience? Where do I still feel like a little gap? Or maybe there's just something I'm holding on to where there might be a guilt in the mind of like, have I done enough? Or um, did I do everything I can? And just different thoughts that can come up to take me away from the present moment. The ego is always like, no, you got to get back to it. You got to get back to work or whatever it is. And then we want to allow ourselves just to be so much in the present moment, but it's also just genuinely noticing like when we're not, like when we feel like something's pulling us away, and it's judgment in the mind. It's still we're judging the personal self, like as much as we believe in this ego identity, there's still these judgments that come up in the mind, but wanting to clear that out. And so, yeah, I was just praying about that, and I was really realizing how important that is to me right now. Like, I really want that experience of a fresh, clean moment every moment. I want to meet my brother free from the past, and I want to feel alive. Like, I want to feel this freshness, like liveliness. And so I was just looking into the course about that. And so I want to read this one section that just describes that experience that feels so inviting. Can you imagine what it means to have no cares, no worries, no anxieties, but merely to be perfectly calm and quiet all the time? Yet that is what time is for, to learn just that and nothing more. God's teacher cannot be satisfied with his teaching until it constitutes all your learning. He has not fulfilled his teaching function until you have become such a consistent learner that you learn only of him. When this has happened, you will no longer need a teacher or time in which to learn. So there's something there that's kind of like inviting us. Can we imagine what it's like to have no worries, no anxieties, but be perfectly calm? And so it seems to be we've all had this prayer, like we really want that fresh new moment every moment. We want to invite the holy instant. And then it seems to be that these relationships seem to be coming in, like us with each other, or maybe we have projects we're joining, or just the ones that seem to show up in our life after we've had that prayer for healing. And so, yeah, I was reading about the holy instant and yeah, what is it with these relationships and this cleaning? How can I step into that? So I want to read this little section now from I Need Do Nothing. It is impossible to accept the holy instant without reservation, unless just for an instant you are willing to see no past or future. You cannot prepare for it without placing it in the future. Release is given you the instant you desire it, the holy instant. Many have spent a lifetime in preparation and have indeed achieved their instance of success. This course does not attempt to teach more than they learned in time, but it does aim at saving time. You may be attempting to follow a very long road to the goal you have accepted. It is extremely difficult to reach atonement by fighting against sin. Enormous effort is expended in the attempt to make holy what is hated and despised. Nor is a lifetime of contemplation and long periods of meditation aimed at detachment from the body necessary. All such attempts will ultimately succeed because of their purpose, yet the means are tedious and very time-consuming, for all of them look to the future for release from a state of present unworthiness and inadequacy. So, yeah, this is talking about relationships, how we've been kind of given relationships as our pathway to fast track the healing. And yeah, I want to talk about this movie I've picked out today because it's so funny. Sometimes, like, I feel like when I'm praying about a movie, I have a theme that comes to my mind, and then I'm going through and something catches my eye with a movie, and I don't even know, what it is. Like, why is that one coming to me right now? And that's what happened this time when I found this movie. It kind of really took me into this experience of like opening up to the holy instant. I was like, wow, I wasn't really expecting to go into that today, but that's what came in. And the movie I found is called At Satcham Farm, also known as Uncorked. And it's from 1998. And the main actor in there, let me see if I have his name written down, is Rufus Sewell. And he's playing a character called Ross. It's interesting too, in the same year, this actor did Dark City. And so he's been doing some of these classic awakening movies that we have. But this movie is not like Dark City. It's very sweet. It's very heart opening. And it's going to show us too where the main character, Ross, he's got a very loving heart and he's got this beautiful gift too. It's going to be through his playing guitar that it really shines in this movie. But he's buried that very, very deep. And he's not recognizing the gifts that the Spirit's given him to really shine. Instead, he's kind of been afraid of that and he's kind of pushed it away. There's something there of like recognizing this true worthiness that comes through intimacy, like intimacy with my brother, stepping towards my brother, and that I might truly be seen for who I am. The ego gives us such a bad rap that we're afraid that others are going to see the same thing in ourselves while we're believing the ego story. So Ross has been terrified that others are going to see him for who he truly is. He has such a sweet, loving heart. And somehow he's been accepting much less for himself. At the start of this movie, you're going to see like he's going to be joining with his partner, Kendall, and and he's going to start to talk about all the things that he's been trying in his life to make it. And he's still trying to get success in the world. Success is like the thing he's holding onto. Like that's going to be the thing that brings me peace. Instead of he's not quite in touch with this opening up to being seen yet. And he's going to be talking about how much of a failed businessman he is, all the things that he's been trying to do in his life, all the different endeavors he's been going through. And he's like, yeah, this hasn't really been working. I can see I'm not actually a very good businessman, but he's still not willing to let it go yet and accept what is truly for him. He's still holding on to it, like some sense of security. If I can just get this, I'll be acknowledged by everyone. I've been a failure in the past, but I feel like if I can just push through with this, I'll get it. And that's not what's given for us. It's actually such a long, long waste of time for him when he has like the means given him right in this moment. We all have the means given us right in this moment to accept the holy instant, the worth and our experience of like this openness and this love is what's available for us right now. So Ross is going to go through this major healing in the movie where he's still trying to use the old means. He's still trying to get success and have a sense of accomplishment, and it's going to be failing. And it kind of seemingly seems to be that he's come together on his uncle's property. He has his Cullen, and he has this beautiful garden kind of property in the hills. It's in a place out in California, I think. But it's like very kind of like hilly and trees, beautiful big gardens. And it's just this symbol of this open mind and this open heart. And Uncle Cullen is a mystic. He is like going to be this Holy Spirit character through the movie. And he's kind of there and he's like looking out over everyone. And he has this deep care for everybody who's there. He's going to play this Holy Spirit character. And he wants everyone to open up to what's given in the present moment now. And he can see very clearly when Ross comes to visit him with his girlfriend, Kendall. He's going to see how much of an investment they both have in the future and how they still want to try to make it and they want to hold on to this thing, but he can see how tight and how in control they are with their lives and how they're really unhappy. And he can also sense the given relationships that are there in that moment that are going to open the heart. So just like the Spirit's aware of these deep relationships that are right there with us, that are going to open us up. So the Spirit has to orchestrate these relationships and what's kind of going on there with our willingness. I mean, there is a degree of our willingness, and Ross has a very little willingness. It's going to look like he doesn't have any. But you can see he will start to open up. Even in the start, he's starting to question, I'm a really bad businessman. things in this life haven't been working out for me very well at all. Why am I still trying to proceed down this pathway? He has this coming up, and that's his little crack. Although he kind of dismisses it pretty quickly, but we will see there is a willingness there. So I want to talk about, yeah, I'll just continue on with that reading I had before because it goes a bit into the relationships. Your way will be different, not in purpose, but in means. A holy relationship is a means of saving time. One instant spent together with your brother restores the universe to both of you. You are prepared. Now you need but to remember you need do nothing. It would be far more profitable now merely to concentrate on this than to consider what you should do. When peace comes at last to those who wrestle with temptation and fight against the giving in to sin, when the light comes at last into the mind given to contemplation, or when the goal is finally achieved by anyone, it always comes with just one happy realization: I need do nothing. And so I've always found that part of the course really interesting too. I need do nothing, especially when it seems like we're involved in so many busy doings. Like the spirit can seemingly provide so many things, so it kind of seems counter sometimes. I need do nothing. But it's really talking about this personal doing, this personal striving that's coming in. The Spirit's plan can actually be very, very simple. Do only this, do just this. And actually, it's the Spirit who does it through us. It's only what we add on and all the egoic thoughts that come in around it that make it feel like such a personal thing. Like, oh, okay, I got to do that now, and maybe I'll have to do this, and what about this? And all the thoughts that get added on to the Spirit's guidance. But the guidance itself is usually always very simple. David talks about it like, being on the big slippery slide, going down the water slide, and you just have to put your hands up in the air and just let go. And there's no doing of anything. You're being taken on this ride. But it is kind of like coming into letting the body being used in that way. Even the words that come out can be like a water slide coming out of your mouth. It's just like the words can just come flow out in an easy way when we're really in the flow of the spirit. And there's going to be some beautiful scenes in this movie too, when there's this allowance, just like letting go of the control, and these words will just start coming out of the mouth, really involuntary. I'll just finish up that part I was reading. So I need do nothing. Here is the ultimate release which everyone will one day find in his way at his own time. You do not need this time. Time has been saved for you and your brother. Time has been saved for you because you and your brother are together. This is the special means this course is using to save you time. You are not making use of the course if you insist on using means which have served others well, like business and trying to make it, neglecting what was made for you. Save time for me by only this one preparation and practice nothing else. I need do nothing. It's a statement of allegiance, a truly undivided loyalty, because it for just one instant, believe it for just one instant, and you will accomplish more than is given to a century of contemplation or of struggle against temptation. So this is going to be this really beautiful example because there can be this fear that comes up in the mind, even of getting guidance wrong. Like, what if am I listening to the right voice or the wrong voice? What if I go down this direction and I've got it wrong? And the ego makes it so fearful. I've kind of like experienced now that our little willingness is so precious. Like even when there's uncertainty in the mind, we can usually feel when, you know, guidance might come in. It might have this little brightness to it. And then there can be this keeping safe that can happen, like, oh, that seems a little bit scary. And then the ego like holds back. So usually like there can be like it's not always that guidance is going to feel like this big like joy that's immediately in the mind, because sometimes there's like the ego's fear is coming up at the same time. But if we're like quiet with it and we hold it, I love I love what Kirsten used to talk about with guidance. Sometimes if there was like a choice, she'd even imagine holding one choice in one hand and another direction in the other hand, and just feeling. And and it's like I can feel, and you can like have an idea, and you can imagine that idea of like maybe there's a direction or something you've been thinking about, and you can hold it in one hand, and you can say, oh, I can, how does that feel to me? I can feel a lightness, or maybe I feel a spark with that direction. There's something that kind of feels bright to me. And maybe there's another way or way you've been doing things, like, how does that feel if I just stay with this way? Or maybe it's starting to feel a bit heavy now, or I don't feel alive. And in that way, we're just starting to kind of get this like, what is it? Even if it starts to feel like a little bit like, oh my God, this feels a bit scary. At least there's something there. Maybe I can try stepping towards. So in this movie, Uncle Cullen is going to be there. And Uncle Cullen is this Holy Spirit character who's really going to help Ross. He's going to just keep on bringing the present moment back to Ross. Ross has been given this big wine collection from Uncle Cullen. And Uncle Cullen's kind of disappointed because he just wanted to give to Ross so he'd drink it. But Ross wants to now sell it because Ross is still kind of focused on the future. He has this expensive wine collection. And also, there's this mine that Ross wants to sell the wine to then buy this mine that's on the property where Uncle Cullen is. Uncle Cullen, Ross, and Ross's brother Tom, they all have like shares on this kind of property. And so it's really beautiful because Uncle Cullen is using the property just to be in the present moment. And he just wants to be, he's like really, he really loves talking about the mystics and like being in the present moment. Tom, who's his brother, is on the property too. Tom has been out in the garden. They hardly ever see him. He's out in this big, what do they call it? I can't remember, but like a big tree garden area. And he's been working on it. He's been kind of like, he's been developing it, and he's been pouring his heart into it with this group he's working with. So they hardly ever see him. And Ross is really judgmental. He thinks he's like a hippie. He's lost. He's out there. He doesn't know what he's doing with his life. And there's so much judgment that Ross is pouring onto his brother as well about how his brother is approaching his life. And so Ross is brought here, and he's going to be given these relationships to kind of see like the value that's there in the present moment. Ross has kind of pushed away how loved he actually is. He has this beautiful gift that he's been holding back on, the guitar that he can play so beautifully and inspires and has been his gift. He's been letting it kind of like gather dust. He hasn't touched it in ages. And it comes up that there's this very deep fear around using that because he feels like he's not good enough. And that's what's going to be coming up. And so the uncle's going to be there as a symbol to help him step through, and he's going to really actively resist it for a while. But then he's finally going to say, like, okay, what I'm trying to do really hasn't been working for me. So this is going to be like an experience, this movie. It's kind of like a meditation. And so I don't want to try to intellectualize it too much because you're just going to feel it. You're going to feel the direction with it. It's really like an unwinding movie. Kendall, who's his partner too, she comes in there. She's been trying to support Ross. She's very kind of a businesswoman too, and she's going to be a really big figure of control, she's been really controlling her life and trying to get Ross back on track. But even that is going to be coming up for like, we don't need to hold on to control any longer. She's going to have this kind of love interest in somebody else who's on the property, this diver, Tom. And so these relationships are going to start to come in that are more obvious for their healing, each character's healing. Each ego dynamic has a beautiful way to open up because they're all coming together now for healing. So I just want to let this movie be like an experience. Um, yeah, if you can feel it yourself, even from that beginning part that I read, where there's still any anxiety in the mind, or like just day to day, where you kind of still feel like maybe like in interactions that there's still some kind of control, or you can't let yourself be fully present or at ease in the present moment. That's just kind of like highlighting there's something there that needs to come up for healing now, an old way of being, an old way of controlling that no longer serves us. And the means are given for an experience to open up now, to open the heart. So maybe we can start with that and play the movie, and I'll pause it throughout and give little comments. So thank you. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so now we're starting to kind of get a sense of what Ross is about in his life right now. He's kind of very nervous, or he doesn't have a great confidence because he's been trying things. He's trying to pursue something that just hasn't been working for him. And there's going to be a great line that comes later in the movie. Is like, do you ever? His uncle will say, "Do you ever wonder why all these things you've been trying keep on failing? Maybe it's because they're just not given for you." And but he's so persistent, and we can also see how focused on the future he is. Even he's trying to be even like trying to match with his partner here, Kendall, who's actually a very good businesswoman. That is like her strength. It's like a spirit-given gift in a way. She can really use that. But that's not Ross. But he's trying to he it's not about a present moment connection for him. It's about he's even trying to talk about this wedding thing, but it says as a future goal again. It's for future happiness. That's how the ego's even using commitment with Ross. It's like, oh, we should make this commitment, but it's always about something in the future. Or I'm on to, he's also talking about I've failed so many times before, but everything's lined up this time. It's, sure to work. So we can see how much everything he and Kendall really talk about is so much about the future. And they're also constantly judging everybody else that's in the house. The brother is a lost cause. He says, "Oh, we should really hook him up with your friend. I think that would be great because we need to get happiness for him." And the uncle is a loon, he's a bit insane. But I need to just, I need to be the strong one in this family. Someone needs to get things done. So there's this self-concept that's coming in here that's kind of like blurring what's actually given, what's actually going to be helpful. And we also saw Tom too, who is actually going to turn out he was like a partner to Kendall many years before he introduced Kendall to Kendall to Ross. But Tom is this failed Olympics diver. And you can see it's actually like, so there's two different angles. Like Ross hasn't accepted his spirit given gift, and he's trying to pursue something else. Tom had a gift. He had a beautiful gift for diving. He loved it. And then something kind of he became so focused on the form of things that he's stuck now in the form. He goes out every day to that diving board and he tries to do the same thing again and again. He's aiming for perfection. So it's kind of showing two different angles. Like Tom had a gift for diving, but now he's not his perfectionism has come in and he won't let go of it. And he won't open up to what's in the present moment because he's so focused on perfecting this gift that he had. So both of them are in different spots where they need to open up to what's given now. And that's going to reveal itself through the relationships. And actually, so this scene here, we're at the dinner table, and they've got Mr. Tang there, who's the going to be buying the wine. And while Ross is trying to put on a really good image of being a good businessman and an entertainer and trying to do a really nice, like present this really nice image. But the uncle is going to get in there too. The uncle doesn't care about that. The uncle wants present moment connection. So the uncle's going to start talking about this mystic. And you see the brother just come into the room too. He's just wanting to be there in the present moment. So let's keep on going. Okay, so we can see how ridiculous a situation Ross is in and how stressful it is too. And it's kind of funny because he's not recognizing what's actually given him in the present moment to open up. That's okay. But he's still like really invested in this old way of doing things that he has to make it. He has to prove himself. Finally, he'll prove to everyone that he's competent and that he can do it. And he's the manganese mine is his kingdom that he's betting everything on, but you can feel how ridiculous it is. And also, like, I mean, I love it though that the scenario is actually so funny, but he can't see the humor in it right now because he's so attached to it that he gets so enraged at his uncle. It's like, you have ruined my life, but he can't see the wood from the trees. He's like really blinded. Even that dinner with Mr. Tang, Mr. Tang was such a funny character. I mean, he even burst out in laughter because of the how comical he was. But it's a funny situation. And if he could just really be like with whoever he's with without trying to get something, without a future goal, he could just be so happy in the present moment. So I just wanted to read this part from the course. Helena actually found and shared with me yesterday, but I think it's beautiful because it talks about how we have this other kingdom that we're holding on to, but that there is actually some guidance that's given for us to move out of this old way of doing things and move into something new. The Holy Spirit will always guide you truly because your joy is His. This is from the section called The State of Grace, by the way. This is His will for everyone because He speaks for the kingdom of God, which is joy. Following Him is therefore the easiest thing in the world and the only thing that is easy because it is not of the world. It is therefore natural. The world goes against your nature, being out of accord with God's laws. The world perceives orders of difficulty in everything. This is because the ego perceives nothing as wholly desirable. By demonstrating to yourself there is no order of difficulty in miracles, you will convince yourself that, in your natural state, there is no difficulty at all, because it is a state of grace. So there's something of grace now that if Ross can really let go of this pursuing things, and really open up to what's there in the moment, he'll come into this state of grace. Grace is the natural state of every son of God. When he is not in a state of grace, he is out of his natural environment and does not function well. Ross is not functioning well. Everything he does becomes a strain because he was not created for the environment that he has made. He therefore cannot adapt to it, nor can he adapt it to him. There is no point in trying. A son of God is happy only when he knows he is with God. That is the only environment in which he will not experience strain, because that is where he belongs. It is also the only environment that is worthy of him, because his own worth is beyond anything he can make. Consider the kingdom you have made and judge its worth fairly. Is it worthy to be a home for a child of God? Does it protect his peace and shine love upon him? Does it keep his heart untouched by fear and allow him to give always without any sense of loss? Does it teach him that this giving is his joy and that God himself thanks him for this giving? That is the only environment in which you can be happy. You cannot make it any more than you can make yourself. It has been created for you, and you were created for it. God watches over his children and denies them nothing. Yet when they deny him, they do not know this, because they deny themselves everything. You who could give the love of God to everything you see and touch and remember are literally denying heaven to yourself. So maybe we can keep it at that. So there's something so much greater that Ross is capable of giving. He's capable of being in a state of giving in a natural grace, in a natural flow where his heart's going to open up. He does not need to strive anymore in trying to make it, trying to make himself into something great. Okay, so this is beautiful. So now Ross is, yeah, just through this invitation, and it's kind of like the spirit is using attraction to lead the way. With Laurie, there was just like this invitation there and an instant feeling of connection that he had with her. And then she opens up to this opportunity to have Paul play the guitar again, just inviting him to open up to his heart once more. And she's kind of in touch. She's like a spirit character who's really in touch with the worth of who Paul is. She can feel it and she feels his gift. So she invites him into that. And it's so beautiful because he steps into that and he's just so in the moment and the music is flowing. And even Kendall is just so in the spirit. She's like drops her defenses that even the words come out of her mouth. You know, don't you still miss me or do you ever miss me? Like just her thoughts, which she would usually try to control. She's just so relaxed. So there's something with Ross's part here, him accepting his part is opening up this allowance for everybody. And that's the same for us all. When we step into our function, our given part, the reflections come through too of like everyone has this same allowance to let the mind open, let the heart open, let the words come out. And so, yeah, just with that beautiful song, and now Ross is kind of moving through this transition too, where he's going to be really thrown off balance because what he now thought was his stability with manganese and this new world that hasn't really been working with him, but now it's really starting to shake because he's starting to actually feel again his heart, and that's going to throw everything up for question now. The instability of his like the little world that he made is starting to shake. So in line with the music, I wanted to read this beautiful part from The Forgotten Song. The blind become accustomed to their world by their adjustments to it. They think they know their way about in it. They learned it, not through joyous lessons, but through the stern necessity of limits they believed they could not overcome. And still believing this, they hold those lessons dear and cling to them because they cannot see. They do not understand the lessons keep them blind. So these old lessons Ross has learned, taught himself about making something of himself. This they do not believe that they've been kept blind. And so they keep the world they learned to see in their imagination, believing that their choice is that or nothing. They hate the world they learned through pain, and everything they think is in it serves to remind them that they are incomplete and bitterly deprived. Thus, they define their life and where they live, adjusting to it as they think they must, afraid to lose the little that they have. And so it is with all who see the body as all they have and all their brothers have. They try to reach each other and they fail again and again. And they adjust to loneliness, believing that to keep the body is to save the little that they have. Listen and try to think if you remember what we will speak of now. Listen, perhaps you catch a hint of an ancient state, not quite forgotten, dim perhaps, and yet not altogether unfamiliar, like a song whose name is long forgotten, and the circumstances in which you heard completely unremembered. Not the whole song has stayed with you, but just a little wisp of the melody, attached not to a person or a place or anything in particular, but you remember from just this little part how lovely was the song, how wonderful the setting where you heard it, and how you loved those who were there and listened with you. The notes are nothing, yet you have kept them with you, not for themselves, but as a soft reminder of what would make you weep if you remembered how dear it was to you. You could remember, yet you are afraid, believing you would lose the world you learned since then. And yet you know that nothing in the world you learned is half so dear as this. Listen. and see if you remember an ancient song you knew so long ago and held more dear than any melody you taught yourself to cherish since. Hmm. Yeah, so we can start to feel it like Ross is getting in touch with this heart song. The heart song is calling, even just represented with his beautiful music, but he's remembering a deep state of a love, of a vibrancy, of his heart glowing and just being so much in the present moment and being so in love just in that moment. That's starting to come back to his recollection, and the old world is going to shake. So right now we're going to go into this scene. His uncle is going to come in, and his uncle is also going to really kind of question, why did you let go of the guitar? This beautiful gift. Why did you let go of your heart? You know, there's just something there. And Ross is going to get in touch with the fear that's been up in his mind, the fear that has been kind of running the show. And so he's really going to start to question everything that his this little world he's made is based on. And you know, and the uncle drops this kind of bombshell by opening his mind up to this, and then the uncle is going to run up this pillar. And he's going to have an enormous amount of projection on his uncle because of there's a deep kind of guilt he feels for accepting so much less, for pushing away God. There's this unconscious guilt that's going to arise in his mind, and he's not going to know how to deal with it except to project it onto his uncle. But right now we're going to go into that. That guilt had to be kind of flushed up. This because something has been seriously wrong with this life been trying to hold together. So, but he's gonna find a way to release that for that to be undone. So we can play it now. Okay. So Russ is in an insane moment right now. It's kind of like happening because he's been holding on to this false identity so long that has been fostered by fear that's in his mind. It's the cornerstone underneath this whole identity he has of himself and what he thinks is success and what he thinks is his life that he needs to prove. And his uncle is there on top of this pole. He's totally counter to his uncle's representing the present moment. You don't need to strive for anything. And the ego takes it as a complete insult. He's like, can't you see what I'm trying to do? And you're getting in the way. Present moment? How can I just totally be in the present moment? Someone has to be responsible. And it's all based on this control and fear. And but Ross has had also a taste too of his heart, and everything is now up for question. His marriage proposal with Kendall, everything in his life is up for question, and the ego is like infuriated. So it's kind of come down to this boiling point where he sees his uncle is like the one who's in the way. He's projecting all this guilt that he's feeling because he feels guilt for not following his heart, for pushing God away. And that's all being projected onto his uncle right now. So I want to read this little section here, and it just addresses this guilt that's up in the mind. The ultimate purpose of projection is always to get rid of guilt. Yet characteristically, the ego attempts to get rid of guilt from its viewpoint only. For much as the ego wants to retain guilt, you find it intolerable, since guilt stands in the way of your remembering God, whose pull is so strong that you cannot resist it. So he's starting to feel this pull towards God as well, and the guilt is really being rushed up into his mind. On this issue, then, the deepest split of all occurs. For if you are to retain guilt, as the ego insists, you cannot be you, who you truly are. Only by persuading you that it is you could the ego possibly induce you to project guilt and thereby keep it in your mind. Yet consider how strange a solution the ego's arrangement is. You project guilt to get rid of it, but you are actually merely concealing it. You do not experience the guilt, but you have no idea why. Sorry, you do experience the guilt, but you have no idea why. On the contrary, you associate it with a weird assortment of ego ideals, which the ego claims you have failed. So the ego ideals, he's failed to make it, and that his uncle should be supporting him, and he's not getting support. So he's failed with this, and this is why he feels like there's this guilt up in the mind. Yet you have no idea that you are failing the Son of God by seeing him as guilty. Believing you are no longer you, you do not realize that you are failing yourself. The darkest of your hidden cornerstones holds your belief in guilt from your awareness. For in a dark and secret place is the realization that you have betrayed God's Son by condemning him to death. You do not even suspect this murderous but insane idea lies hidden there, for the ego's destructive urge is so intense that nothing short of the crucifixion of God's Son can ultimately satisfy it. It does not know who the Son of God is because it is blind. Yet let it perceive guiltlessness anywhere, and it will try to destroy it because it is afraid. So this is where he's at right now in this scene. He's like feeling the guilt is really up in the mind for the split that he's aware of now. He's starting to be aware of, but it's all pushed out on the uncle. And in this blind moment where he's totally identifying with the ego, he's not even aware of what he's doing right now. So we can play it right here. Yeah, so just finishing with that. You can see like there was just some shift in his mind, some little miracle in his mind where he was just able to choose again. It's like the how extreme the death wish was in the mind for believing in the ego. He was unaware, it was totally repressed. But in he kept on going with the ego, kept on siding with it, and that death wish really came up into full awareness in that moment. But he was able to see it and somehow choose again in that moment. And just reading the last bit of that section I read before, when the temptation to attack rises to make your mind darkened and murderous, remember you can see the battle from above. Even in forms you do not recognize, the signs you know. There is a stab of pain, a twinge of guilt, and above all, a loss of peace. This you know well. When they occur, leave not your place on high, but quickly choose a miracle instead of murder. And God Himself and all the lights of heaven will gently lean to you and hold you up. For you have chosen to remain where He would have you, and no illusion can attack the peace of God together with His Son. So beautiful symbols in there too, because he's literally up high now, and he has to choose whether his mind is going to stay down low or whether he's going to open up to this above the battleground perspective. And he did choose in that moment, he chose to see things in a different way. So somehow this seeing of the death wish and choosing again is going to open up something in Ross. He can see how extreme his perspective has been when he's been siding with the ego. And now he can see like that was underneath everything. And some willingness is now going to open up in him. He's still not totally healed right now because there's still fear in the mind. But he's open up enough to see that his uncle isn't the one who's totally insane. He's quirky, but his uncle is actually wanting the best for him, and he's going to start to recognize that now, that everyone around him wants the best for him, and he can accept this call for love. We can play it. So I just wanted to mention now this, it's beautiful because there's a shift that's happening even with let's see. So yeah, with Kendall, she could start to feel the value of love that she had on her heart, that she's repressed as well. And all this control had been in there instead. But when it was presented the option of like that connection with Tom, there's just something within her heart that she recognized that she'd been longing for. It's a symbol of who she truly is, and that something that she wanted to open up to again, but she couldn't see how. So I love it now that Uncle Cullen, he's on top of this huge pillar, so he has like the bird's eye view. He's above the battleground, and he's kind of getting tuned into a flow for everybody. And and he's just that's what his heart's calling has been too, just to be totally there with the Spirit, totally open to the Spirit and not to be reliant on anything else. And now that he's in that space, he actually feels like all this guidance pouring through him for the good of everyone. And everyone who's open to it too is benefited. And so Ross is now stepping more towards his heart calling. I love it how Ross even put the walkie-talkie in the basket and that was raised up. It was just like a symbol of wanting to establish communication again. And it's like the Holy Spirit having the walkie-talkie and he's there. And Ross is actually going to be guided around and there's going to be some steps. So Ross isn't totally insane anymore. He still had this like still a little bit of hope for the manganese, whatever, but he can start to see now, oh, okay, so that's actually, I'm going to hand that over too. And he feels this draw to Laurie as well. There's a love calling there. And he's going to go in the direction now of his brother too. He hasn't even really questioned like his brother who he holds dear, but he hasn't even opened up to what is he actually doing. And so he now has a desire for more of a genuine connection as well. So love is now leading the way, and there's an openness to guidance from the Spirit for everybody. And it's going to culminate in this really beautiful experience. So let's keep going. So just before we go on, yeah, there's something beautiful because even those who he saw with being without love, his brother, Paul, he kind of felt like, what is he doing with his life? And he couldn't recognize all the love that Paul was pouring into this beautiful garden. And he was there with his partner too. He wasn't alone. He thought his brother was alone, but he couldn't even see the relationships that were there. So the ego, with its own view of the world, can't see the relationships, it can't see the value, it can't see the love, and it can't see all the care and nurturing that has been kind of going into things that the Spirit is pouring into everything. So it was a lovely little contrast experience where he recognized, I've had no idea what's going on. And I love this. There's this little part from the course I wanted to read from the little garden. And so this kind of compares his world to what he's now opening up to. Look at the desert, dry and unproductive, scorched and joyless, that makes up your little kingdom, and realize the life and joy that love would bring to it from where it comes and where it would return with you. The thought of God surrounds your little kingdom, waiting for the barrier you built to come inside and shine upon the ground, the barren ground. See how life springs up everywhere. The desert becomes a garden, green and deep and quiet, offering rest to those who lost their way and wander in the dust. Give them a place of refuge, prepared by love for them, where once a desert was. And everyone you welcome will bring love with him from heaven for you. They enter one by one into this holy place, but they will not depart as they had come, alone. The love they brought with them will stay with them, and it will stay with you. And under its beneficence, your little garden will expand and reach out to everyone who thirsts for living water, but has grown too weary to go on alone. And so Ross had this beautiful experience now of the garden, the love, what love is capable of, and opening up to that for miracles in his life. And now his uncle is providing guidance too to expand that little garden to also include Ross's gifts. Everything is being provided now. And it is a moment where Ross will just need a little bit of willingness to trust the guidance. And I was just remembering that part of the course at the end, the final lessons, where it's saying, this holy instant would I give to you. Be you in charge, for I would follow you, certain that your direction gives me peace. If I need a word to help me, he will give it to me. If I need a thought, that he will also give. And if I need but stillness and a tranquil open mind, these are his gifts I will receive of him. He is in charge by my request, and he will hear and answer me because he speaks for God, my Father, and his Holy Son. And so now this is all Ross needs. It's just his little willingness and saying yes to the guidance that's coming in. He's still going to have fear that pokes up, but he's going to just take these steps with love now, and it's going to be so expansive. So let's play. Mm, beautiful. I was just thinking of that line, like you might be discouraged at how long this journey might seem to take, but then, how long is an instant? And it's just what he experienced there, just with his willingness, that instant, it just kind of felt like time collapsed, and suddenly he was back in his full purpose after feeling so lost. And this beautiful part to end with, just about this coming back into this full extension with God. There is a light in you which cannot die, whose presence is so holy that the world is sanctified because of you. All things that live bring gifts to you and offer them in gratitude and gladness at your feet. The scent of flowers is their gift to you. The waves bow down before you, and the trees extend their arms to shield you from the heat, and lay their leaves before you on the ground, that you may walk in softness, while the wind sinks to a whisper round your holy head. The light in you is what the universe longs to behold. All living things are still before you, for they recognize who walks with you. The light you carry is their own, and thus they see in you their holiness, saluting you as Savior and as God. Accept their reverence, for it is due to holiness itself, which walks with you, transforming in its gentle light all things unto its likeness and its purity. I love that beautiful thing. Like literally, all were around him just to honor the Christ in him. And that beautiful song was playing, "The love of Christ be to you." And he was just there, having said yes to his holiness. And all who were there to witness their same holiness in him. It was just such an honoring. Even Mr. Tang came back for what it was he was really valuing too. It was like he could feel the precious gift that was in Ross himself, as the same holiness that we want to honor, all want to honor in each other. And that's our gift for each other, for coming together. It's just to recognize that same holiness. Oh, thank you so much, everyone. Holy, holy journey. Hmm. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the